Namaha Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're continuing Bhakti Vaibhava. We're studying the second canto, and today we're going to look at chapter number 7, Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. So at the end of chapter 6, we heard Lord Brahma talk about, he recommended hearing about the pastimes of the Lord, which would be right? It was mentioned here, hearing the pastimes of the Lord would remove any of the contamination from the heart. And it would be very pleasing to the heart. So that's what's going to happen in this chapter. The chapter actually begins, Lord Brahma describes about some of the different Lila avatars of the Lord. There are many different there are different kinds of avatars, right? We know there's the Purusha avatars, and there's the Shaktravesha avatars, and there's Guna avatars, and there are also Lila avatars. So the Lila avatars are innumerable. You cannot mention all of them, but the chapter begins, I think he introduces about 20 different Lila avatars, and then he comes to Lord Krishna. And then there's several verses discussing Lord Krishna and his different pastimes. And then we will hear about also Vyasa. And Vyasa is mentioned after Lord Krishna, and Vyasa's contribution. And then we will hear about the process of Lord Brahma recommending Narada Muni to take up. Well, first of all, he describes the absolute position of Lord Krishna over everything, that he is the cause of everything and the original source of everything, and he's the supreme worshipful Lord. And he recommends to Narada Muni that he should preach the glories of the Lord. Okay, so that's the main points of what's going to happen in this section. So, chapter begins with Brahma describing the first Lila avatar he talks about is Lord Varaha. And that's quite interesting because, of course, Lord Varaha took birth from Lord Brahma in an unusual manner. Of course, he came from the nostril of Brahma. Anyway, you could say Lord Varaha, his origin of his birth is from Lord Brahma. And it's point we should understand the significance of hearing about these different Lila avatars, that it prepares us to understand the supreme position of Lord Krishna. Without hearing this preliminary knowledge of these different Lila avatars, then if we just simply heard about Lord Krishna, we'd consider the pastimes of Lord Krishna to be mundane, and we would consider Lord Krishna to be like another human being. We would not understand his actual transcendental position and his dominion over everyone. So it's very important that the preliminary phase in hearing about Krishna is to understand about Krishna's energies. And therefore we're going to hear about his different incarnations, as well as we heard about his energy, we heard about his Virata Rup in the previous chapter. Now we're going to hear about his different incarnations, beginning with Lord Varaha. Lord Varaha is also significant because Lord Varaha, of course, in the form of the boar or the pig, which is considered so untouchable and unclean. You know, everybody's, oh, a pig, oh, you know, disgusting, you know, we want to keep away from it. But here is Lord Varaha coming in the form of the pig, is Lord Varaha, and he's performing the most wonderful pastimes. When the artists were first painting the pictures of the Lord's different incarnations, they wondered about how to paint. The one lady, it was Jadharani actually, who was painting, and she wrote to Prabhupada, and she asked Prabhupada about how to paint, because pigs are not very beautiful. So how to paint the form of the Lord as a pig? And Prabhupada told her, he said, yeah, you should make him as beautiful as possible. Make him as attractive as possible, at the same time remembering that he is in the form of a pig. So the point is to understand that even the Lord comes in the form of a pig, that he is totally pure and transcendental. He's above the modes of nature. He's not influenced by that particular body. We shouldn't think of him as we would think of a normal pig, but we should understand this is the form of the Lord. And it's very wonderful and inspiring for us to hear about the Lord in his different incarnations. And of course, as Lord Varaha, he picks up the earth planet from the bottom of the universe. So this is something of the significance of what's going on in this first verse here. And Prabhupada's purports are quite extensive in these early sections, these different avatars, and mainly Prabhupada speaking about the importance of understanding the Lord not from the mundane platform, but understanding his transcendental position over everything. Prabhupada talks about the symptoms of an incarnation of the Lord. Just see here in the second paragraph of the first text, the incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances, like the above-mentioned occasion. Right? The occasion was that the Earth planet had fallen into the bottom of the universe. Okay, so like that, Prabhupada is preparing us, preparing the readers to understand actually what's happening when the Lord, when he comes as the Lord Krishna, and he appears in his human form and performing particularly his childhood Leela, which we're all remembering this month with the Damodar month. We're remembering that pastime, and we're singing Damodarastikam, and we're remembering the Lord's pastime there. Okay, so the first one was Lord Varaha. Then the second one we hear about Suyagna and how he created different demigods and was able to get rid of the different demons who were disturbing the material world. And then Lord Kapila is described. And Lord Kapila enlightened his mother, Devahuti, with the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga. Then we will hear about, then Atri Muni is described. Anatri Muni's son, Dattatreya. So Dattatreya is the incarnation of the Lord, and he was famous, of course, for the science of medicine, curing diseases. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, that's halfway through the purport, he talks about the Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more dear than the Lord. So this is an interesting point, which is important for us as we practice bhakti yoga. We want to impress this point upon the impersonalists, because they will always argue that, you know, they are the Lord, they become one with the Lord. But here Prabhupada points out how the devotee becomes more than the Lord. And Prabhupada continues, the impersonalists desire to become one with the Supreme. But the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monist. Parents and other relatives of the Lord achieve all mystic opulence automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. So we'd often hear Prabhupada also present the point that other religious paths, they may think of the Lord as the Father, and they will go to the Father and beg. But in the Gaudiya philosophy, the devotee can become the Father of the Lord. So it's better to be the Father than to be the Son, because as the Father you're able to give direct service to the Lord, to take the Lord as your child, and to give your love and affection and care for Him. That is better than being the Father, than being the Son and going to the Father, because the Son always comes to the Father, oh, give me this, take care of that, I need to do this, I need your help. Son's always coming for help. And so it's better to be the Father, then we can actually give service to the Lord. In the purport, Prabhupada also talks about the example of Haihaya, who achieved all perfection in devotional service, but because of his offense at the feet of a devotee was killed by Lord Parasuram. Right? So Prabhupada is talking here about the danger of offences at the feet of the devotee. What did Haihaya do, actually? That Lord Parasuram had to kill him? Anybody know the pastime? It's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Later on, I think it comes in the 10th canto. It's mentioned that Haihaya, he stole away the desire cow. Parashuram's father, Jamadagni, was keeping a Kamadhenu cow, and this Haihaya came and stole it away. And so Parasuram killed him for that. So that was a great offense of Haihaya, to take away the Kamadhenu cow of Jamadagni. Therefore Lord Parasuram killed him. So the Lord becomes the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya. Then text 5, we hear about the 4 Kumaras. Text 6, we hear about Nara Narayan and how they're doing their tapasya. And then text 7 is describing Lord Shiva and how he was sometimes he would get angry with people. Text 8, Dhruva Maharaj is mentioned, And we hear about Dhruva Maharaj, how the Lord rewards him with a Vaikuntha planet. And the specific nature of that planet is that it's not annihilated, even at the end of the creation. It remains. And even though it's situated below, the seven sages, the seven stars, they are situated below the Dhruva planet. Because the Dhruva planet is like the pole star, and all the different planets are moving around the pole star. So that pole star, that remains when all the other planets are annihilated. Maharaj Bhrigu's planet is situated above the Dhruva planet. So there's some planets above the pole star, some are below. But still the Dhruva, the pole star is not annihilated. And then the interesting one for me, I thought a point I'd never heard before comes up about Maharaj Prithu. And we hear about Maharaj Prithu, and he did something very interesting, which is not brought out in the other section. In the fourth, you don't hear of it in the fourth canto in relation to Maharaj Prithu, but here in this purport, we're told about Maharaj Prithu, that because Maharaj Prithu was born from the body of Maharaj Vena, and Vena had been cursed by the Brahmanas because of all of his sinful activities. The Brahmanas were not allowed to do their sacrifices, so they had to curse Maharaj Vena. And Prithu Maharaj was churned from the body of Vena. So when Prithu Maharaj heard about how his father Vena, that he had his next life, after being killed by the Brahmanas, he took birth in a family of a Malecha, and he was afflicted with leprosy. So he was suffering from leprosy in the family of a Malecha. And what did Maharaj Prithu do? Maharaj Prithu went there and he found him, and he brought this, because formerly he had been his father, so he thought, I'm indebted to him, I have to try to help him. So he brought this man who had leprosy, and he brought him to Kurukshetra, and they performed sacrifice, and he was able to get relief from all of his sufferings. So Maharaj Prithu shows the example of a son to the father, right? The son is supposed to be the putra, means he delivers the father from hell. So Maharaj Prithu actually did this. He saved his father was really in hell, and Maharaj Prithu went and he brought him and he delivered him from his hellish condition. So that's an interesting point which is mentioned there. Then number 10, verse 10 describes about the son of, the Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi. He was known as Rishabdev, and of course Rishabdev is described in the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Haigriva is described, how the Lord comes. So we see the Lord in different forms as Haigriva. This is unusual. This is like horse incarnation. And his breathing was the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. So the Lord appears in so many different forms, different times, different missions and purposes. Then we hear about Matsya, text 12, text 13, Kurma. Text 14, Lord Nrsingadev. So another wonderful form, half lion, half man. And we hear about the Lord there. And then Gajendra is described, and how the Lord comes to deliver Gajendra, although he's in the form of an elephant, but because he's a devotee, the Lord is attracted and the Lord comes to deliver him. Because Gajendra had chanted the holy name of the Lord, he'd attracted the Lord. So this is mentioned. And the elephant offered nice prayers, glorifying the Lord. Then text 17, we hear about Lord Vamanadev appearing and begging from Bali Maharaj and taking away the property from Bali Maharaj, but taking away the property of Bali Maharaj by begging, and then rewarding him by giving him much more than he actually had before. Although the Lord sent Bali Maharaj back into Patala Loka, the Lord went with him as his doorkeeper to protect him from any trouble. So in the purport there, in the purport of text 18 purport is mentioned, in other words, when the Lord snatches away one's hard-earned material possessions and favors one with his personal transcendental service for eternal life, bliss and knowledge, such taking away by the Lord should be considered a special favor upon such a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada, of course, had his own experience in this regard. The Srila Prabhupada was doing business initially, and he was thinking he would make money and give it to his Guru Maharaj. But Krishna had other ideas. His business failed, he lost everything, and he just took it more and more to the preaching work. And finally he left home and went on to become a sannyasi and to go to the West and begin the Krishna consciousness movement. So Srila Prabhupada always reflected how this was a mercy, special mercy of Lord Krishna, the special mercy which none of us really want, right? That mercy where the Lord takes away all of our hard-earned material possessions. That he takes them away to give something much more. Prabhupada reflected on it. He said, when I was at home in my family, I had 5 children. But he said, now I have thousands of children all over the world. And previously I had one little house in Calcutta, but now I have homes all over the world. And he said, my children love me much more than all of my children at home, who are actually my own seminal children. The children who I have now, they have much more love for me than those children had. So Prabhupada explained how Krishna takes away to give something much more than what we actually had. And then in the purport, Prabhupada encourages us about the importance of minimizing our needs. He said, in the purport there, if you just read through the purport a little bit, it's a long paragraph, but about halfway through that second paragraph, to know exactly the permanency of spiritual existence, one must voluntarily practice possessing less, or only the minimum to maintain one's material existence without difficulty. One should not create artificial needs that will help one be satisfied with the minimum. Artificial needs of life are activities of the senses. So Prabhupada is encouraging us, as always, simple living, high thinking. Minimize our needs. And Prabhupada says here, without difficulty, of course, it should be without difficulty. Of course, it's a very relative thing. What is actually necessary, what we need and what we don't need, there will be different ideas about that. Everyone will have their different ideas. Oh, I need this. Oh, I know I have to have that, right? And there's always this... Prabhupada problems in trying to minimize the needs, what we actually need, what we think we need. You know, just like sometimes in the course of this pandemic, you know, I've been here in Mayapur now for coming up to 2 years now. So I had to leave. You know, I just came initially, I was just coming here for a few months. So I didn't bring everything I need. So I left a lot of things in other places. But I can see they're not really so essential. What you think is important sometimes at the particular time, you think, oh yeah, I need this, oh I need that, oh save that, oh don't throw that away. But you know, in course of time, it's useless. You come back to it years later, you think, oh my goodness, what's this? This is useless. So we collect so many things. This is the problem, our material disease. We live in the material world, and we're in this consumer society, and we just consume like anything. So many things, so many clothes, so many shoes, so many cloth, oh, on and on. And we really have to try to minimize, try to keep it simple. My godbrother, Kavi Chandra Maharaj, he would always say to me, he said, it's a simple formula. He said, just remember one word, KISS, K-I-S-S. And then I said, what does it mean? He says, keep it simple, stupid. Kavi Chandra Swami's humor. Keep it simple, stupid. So we can remember that word, right? It's not a difficult word to remember. Okay, going ahead, text 19, we hear about Hamsa Duta, and then text 20, Manus, the descendants of Manu. '21, Dhanvantari is mentioned again, curing the disease. Prabhupada's purport at the end there of that text number 21. The embodied living entity is diseased by the very construction of his body. The body is a symbol of disease. The disease may differ from one variety to another, but disease must be there, just as there is birth and death for everyone. So, by the grace of the personality of Godhead, not only are diseases of the body and mind cured, but also the soul is relieved of the constant repetition of birth and death. The name of the Lord is also called Bhavoshadi, or the source of curing the disease of material existence. Right? So the real disease is this material body, birth and death, that we've taken on this material body. We want to understand what is actually the disease. Of course, there's so many diseases now at this time. You know, if it's not COVID, then it's dengue, and then there's cancer, and then there's malaria, and oh, it's endless, you know, there's no end to them. One thing after another. And so you just have to take shelter of Lord Krishna and understand we're in this material world. There's no way out of it other than surrender to Krishna and don't come back to this material world. Get out of this material world. Don't come back. This place is meant for suffering. It's not for enjoyment. There's no real enjoyment here in this world. It's all suffering. So we're meant to just get out of this place. And these diseases are there just to remind us that this world is not our home. This is not our real home. We want to get out of this place. Okay, then we hear about Parasuram and how he killed the Kshatriyas. We were talking about him earlier. In 23, we hear about Lord Ramachandra So we're coming to more human forms, Lord Ramachandra displaying his special mood, this Maryada avatar, the person who exemplifies perfect etiquette in dealing with others. And we hear about also his wonderful pastimes as well, how he conquered Ravana and got back his wife. At the same time, he had to cross the ocean, and how he crossed that ocean in his own unique way. So there's several verses dealing with Lord Ramachandra and how they defeated Ravan. And then we come to text 26, and we start to hear about Lord Sri Krishna. So text 26 begins, Lord Brahma speaking, remember. Lord Brahma speaking, and he's describing about Lord Krishna. He said, when the world is overburdened by the fighting strength of the kings who have no faith in God, the Lord, just to diminish the distress of the world, descends with his plenary portion. So Jiva Goswami asked a question about this. He said, why does the Lord have to come just to relieve the earth of the burden of so many demoniac kings? Would someone like to answer this question? It's not very difficult, right? Why would the Lord come to relieve the world of all of these kings? When the earth is overburdened by all of these kings, so the Lord came to relieve the distress of the world. So Jiva Goswami says, why would he have to come to do that? He's the Lord.
Perform this transcendental pastimes so that the people are attracted towards them and go back to God, or have a desire to go to them.
Right, yes. The Lord doesn't have to, he didn't come just for that. Externally, it may appear like that. That was, the external reason for him coming. But actually his higher purpose in coming was to perform his pastimes and to give pleasure to his devotees. For the sake of relieving the earth of all these kings, the Lord could easily do it. He just has to give everyone a heart attack and remove them all. Or he creates a virus like the COVID or something, and has everybody dead, I mean, the Lord could do it very easily without coming here. He didn't come just to kill all the kings. His real purpose in coming is to perform his pastimes, particularly the Braja pastimes in childhood Leela, to attract and to get, and in this way he performs wonderful pastimes, and his devotees have something to meditate on. They can remember all of his wonderful activities. So this is the actual reason why the Lord comes in this world. Not just simply to destroy all these demons. Okay? So, Lord Brahma is going to describe all of the different pastimes of the Lord. Well, not all of them, but a number of them. And he's going to speak about his superhuman activities. As he explains here, to expand his transcendental glories, he acts extraordinary. No one can properly estimate how great he is. So this is the idea. After hearing about so many other incarnations and understanding that these other Leela avatars, they're all just his expansions. But he is the original source of all of these expansions. They all come from him. And all of their powers, all of their attributes, everything is actually coming from the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is none other than Lord Krishna, who is a young child in the woods of Vrindavan playing the flute with a peacock feather on his head. So this is the inconceivable nature of Lord Krishna's pastimes. Prabhupada writes in the purport here, describing this, both Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram had such hairs on their head, and thus even in advanced age, they appeared like young boys, 16 years old. This is a particular symptom of the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated that although he is the oldest personality among all living entities, he always looks like a new, youthful boy. That is the characteristics of a spiritual body. The material body, symptomized by birth, death, old age and disease. But the spiritual body is conspicuous by the absence of these symptoms. So Lord Krishna comes to display these pastimes. We were doing an exercise just last night with the devotees on the universal form. And one of the questions they had to deal with was the challenge of an imposter who's saying, I'm God. So if he's actually God, then we can say to him, why are you becoming old? Lord Krishna doesn't become old. Is this true for all of the incarnations of God? That they don't become old? Well, certainly it's true for Lord Krishna. What about Lord Ramachandra? How long was he on the planet for? How long did Lord Ramachandra rule Ayodhya after he came back from exile? I think 10,000 years. Of course, it was a different yuga. What about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He was in this world for 48 years. Did he become old? We never heard. I did hear one thing. I heard he never had to shave his head. After he took sannyas, he shaved his head that time. He never had to shave his head again. And that's why his hair is in samadhi. There's a samadhi there at Katwa. Katwa's not very far away from Mayapur, just across the Ganga. And so there's at the temple of Keshava Bharati, there's a samadhi for Lord Chaitanya's hair. And Lord Chaitanya's hair didn't grow again after he took sannyas. He didn't have to worry about shaving his head every 2 weeks or anything. So that's something of the nature of the Supreme Lord. His body's not material. Okay, going on, text 27. Lord Krishna, there is no doubt about Lord Krishna being the Supreme Lord, Lord Brahma is saying. Lord Brahma is convinced. He's seen it. He's seen the Lord. He's seen his activities. So he knows. How was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana? So what was so special about Krishna killing Putana? How did Krishna display his position as the Supreme Lord? Someone can respond? Yes? Go ahead, Prabhu.
Lord.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, go ahead, Shilpa. Yeah, please.
Lord Krishna was just a baby, few days old, and when Putana came to feed him breast milk, along with the milk, he also sucked out her life air, which is very extraordinary.
And what happened to Putana when he sucked out her life hair?
She died, and then of course he let her come to Golok Vrindavan.
No, but what particular form did she come to Krishna in?
Oh, she came as a very beautiful form.
How was she dressed? She was dressed like?
A gopi.
Yeah. Yeah, she became a gopi. She dressed herself just like a gopi.
Yeah, that's the reason none of the cowherd men or the women, nobody suspected her.
Yeah, they said, who are you? We never saw you before. And she said, well, I'm from Mathura. I'm the wife of a Brahmana. Like that. Anyway, she disguised herself like a gopi. And of course, she was very attractive. It said all the men in Vrindavan, they were all attracted by her. They're all thinking, wow, who's she? They'd never saw her before. They were surprised. And so she was able to walk right in, and she could pick up baby Krishna. But then after Lord Krishna bit her, what happened?
He took away her life air also. She started screaming.
But
he exposed his original.
She transformed herself. She took her original form. Right?
Yeah, she was not able to keep up by her artificial form as a gopi.
That's right, yeah. She took the form of a huge Rakshasa. She ran out of the house, and she ran out of Nanda Maharaj's house, and she went into there were some fruit trees, an orchard nearby. Apparently they say it was all the trees of King Kamsa, where he was growing all of his fruits, and she fell down. She was 6 miles long. She took this huge form, 6 miles long, because she could not maintain her disguise. She was disguising herself to get in there, but when Lord Krishna bit her, then she revealed her actual form. What about Lord Krishna though? Lord Krishna, he's the Supreme Lord. Now he could expand himself more than 6 miles if he wanted to, but he didn't. Lord Krishna just remained a baby, and he's playing there on the chest of Putana. Putana has taken this huge form, it's a big Rakshasi, she's 6 miles long, and there's Lord Krishna is crawling around on her chest there. Mother Yashoda and everywhere, they were, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? They were frantic. They were looking, and then they went outside and they saw he was playing there on the chest of Putana. And so then they picked him up and they took... Lord Krishna, even though he was in the form of a little baby, he didn't have to transform himself. That's the point. And we saw this with another case. It was Balaram and Pralamba. Pralamba was trying to take away Lord Balaram, and he was carrying Lord Balaram. But Lord Balaram became very heavy, and so Pralamba, he became gigantic. He took his original form. And so Balaram smashed him and killed Pralambasura. So Lord Balaram, he also stayed as a little child. But the demons, they take their huge form to try to protect themselves, to try to fight against the Lord, but they cannot. But God is always God, even when he's a baby. That's the point. Lord Krishna didn't become God. He's always God. So the materialistic people, yogis and so on, they're doing things, they want to become God. They think they can become God. But God is always God. He appears in this world. From the time he appears in this world, we saw when he appeared as the child of Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared in his original transcendental form as Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayan, fully dressed, decorated with all opulence. And we see also as baby, as the child of in the home of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. Even when the demon Putana comes, Lord Krishna maintains this little childhood baby form, and he's able to kill Putana. So this is the nature of Lord Krishna. And then Lord Brahma talks about how Krishna pulled over the Arjuna trees and liberated the two sons of Kuvera when he was only 3 months old. He uprooted. He was only a few days old when he did this to Putana, but when he knocked over the Arjuna trees, he was 3 months old. So Krishna grew up quite quickly, actually. It's mentioned like after 3 years and 4 months, he'd already reached a stage of what's normally achieved when a child is 5 years old. So he was 3 years and 4 months, and he was already given the position of taking the cows out to the forest or taking the calves into the forest. And when he was 6 years and 8 months, then he was like a child who was about 10. And so he was given the cows to take care of. Then at 11 he went to Mathura. And so going to Mathura, he's already reached the stage of youth. So sometimes we see that. We see sometimes young men born in a very royal family, they grow up and they become very powerful. Their physique is very powerful, even when they're still young, still very young. So for Lord Krishna, it was certainly not that he had to do it. You know, he had all the powers, even as a baby. But he was displaying for his pastimes, for the purpose of his pastimes, he displayed all of these different things. So Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport 27, the Lord in any condition is Lord of the universe, and he can act as such in any form, gigantic or small, as he likes. We can't place any restrictions on him. Then 28, Lord Brahma talks about the poisoned water in the river Yamuna and how Lord Krishna punished the Kaliya serpent and told the Kaliya snake, don't you come back here, don't you come back here to pollute this water of the Yamuna. The water of the Yamuna was so important for the people of Vrindavan because of the cows. Cows, they drink a lot of water every day. It's very sad to see the Yamuna diminish every year. How it becomes less and less every year. It used to be a much bigger river. Not only the Yamuna, we see this with many rivers around the world today. The rivers gradually drying up, and then they have this weed just like over here in Mayapur, not so much in the Ganga, but on the Jalangi, because the Jalangi doesn't flow. The Ganga flows rapidly, but the Jalangi doesn't flow very rapidly. So there's a weed, this terrible weed growing, and it just fills all the banks. All the banks are covered with this terrible weed, which grows everywhere and dries up all the water. So Lord Krishna came and he got the Kaliya serpent. Of course, there was a whole pastime, a whole Leela there, where Krishna dived into the water and the Kaliya snake bound up Krishna in his coils and held Krishna in his coils for an hour. And all the people of Vrindavan were practically on the point of death. And it was only Lord Balaram who came there, who could stop them from throwing themselves into the water. They all wanted to go into the water to try to save Krishna. Lord Balaram wouldn't let them. Lord Balaram understood it's okay. He said, just like Krishna, he's going to be all right, don't worry. And then Krishna broke out from the coils of Kaliya and danced on his hoods. And then he told Kaliya, you get out of here. Don't you come back here anymore in this water of the Yamuna. And why did Kaliya come to the Yamuna? What was his purpose? Why had he particularly chosen the Yamuna to come?
But he had a curse. He was cursed by, there was a curse on him that he can only live in Yamuna. Other places, the Garuda will kill him. So he was living there.
Yeah, he was afraid of Garuda, right?
Yes.
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 Garuda could not come in Vrindavan before. Garuda could not come in Vrindavan, so he took shelter of Yamuna over there. Because he was afraid of Garuda.
Anyway, it's all related to Subari Muni. Subari Muni was there in the bottom of the Yamuna. And Garuda had taken a big fish, and Subari Muni had cursed Garuda, if you come here again, you will certainly die. And so because Subari Muni put a curse on Garuda, and so Subari Muni fell down. And Garuda respected that curse. He didn't have to, but he thought, he's put the curse, I should respect it. So he didn't come. And so Kaliya knew that there was a curse on Garuda, so he knew that if he went to the Yamuna, he would be safe, because Garuda's not coming there. So after Krishna's telling Kaliya to get out of the Yamuna, is he going to be in danger from Garuda? Because he'd come to the Yamuna for his own safety, so is he in danger now? He's going out of the Yamuna? Why not?
Because the Lord's footprints are on his hood.
Because Garuda will see the lotus footprints of Kaliya on the hoods of Kaliya. You'll see the lotus footprints of Krishna on the hoods of Kaliya. So Garuda will respect him now. So that was a very merciful activity of Krishna. Krishna could have just killed Kaliya, but Krishna was so kind, he just told him go. So it's said in the spiritual world, there's also a Kaliya who Krishna plays with, sometimes at the Yamuna. So Krishna enjoys these pastimes. In the purport of text number 29, Prabhupada writes, "Whoever knows the superhuman activities of the Lord due to their very transcendental nature becomes eligible to enter the kingdom of Krishna." So, very important for us to understand or to be familiar with these transcendental activities, superhuman activities. And right? What's the verse in Bhagavad Gita? Janma karma. Right, if we understand the birth and the activities of Lord Krishna to be transcendental, then we can get out from this material world. Prabhupada also writes in that same purport, uprooting a gigantic banyan tree or Arjuna tree and extinguishing a blazing fire simply by closing one's eyes are certainly impossible by any kind of human endeavor. But not only are these activities amazing to hear, but in fact, all other activities of the Lord, whatever he may do, are all superhuman, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, in the verse you just quoted. Okay, and then Brahma goes on to describe more about Vrindavan and Krishna's Leela there with the cowherd women and how Mother Yashoda was trying to tie him up. Mystic nature of her son. Lord Krishna was enjoying teasing his mother, although she could put put some ornaments around his waist, she could not tie a rope around him. And Krishna did not allow her initially. But then when he saw his mother become tired, he had compassion on her and he relented. and allowed Mother Yashoda to tie him up. And that led to the Damodar Leela and the knocking over of the Arjuna trees. Then text 31 goes on. Nanda Maharaj was rescued from the demigod Varuna because he'd been arrested. Apparently he'd taken bath at the wrong time. The servants of Varuna had made actually a great mistake. Nanda Maharaj was not at the wrong time, but the servants of Varuna, they were wrong, and they arrested Nanda Maharaj. And Lord Krishna had to go there to the abode of Varuna and free Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj was surprised when Lord Krishna came there and he saw Varuna worship Lord Krishna. Because Nanda Maharaj was always thinking of Lord Krishna as his son. But when Krishna came to Varuna, Varuna was worshipping Lord Krishna. And he apologized to Lord Krishna for arresting Nanda Maharaj. So it's an interesting pastime, how Varuna apologizes to Lord Krishna for his mistake, for the mistake of his servants. The servants do something wrong, the master's responsible. So Varuna was apologizing to Lord Krishna. And then releasing the cowherd boys from the caves because of the son of Maya. What's the name of that son of Maya? Put the cowherd boys in a cave? What demon?
Vyomasura.
Umasura.
Bomasura.
Vyomasura.
What say the name again?
Vyomasura.
Oh, Vyomasura, okay. Vyomasura. So Lord Brahma describes how the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they're working all day and they sleep peacefully at night because they work hard all day. And he said Lord Krishna takes them to the spiritual world. Without any doubt, they go back to Godhead. What are they doing? They're just working all day and they sleep at night, but they go back to Godhead. Why? Because everything they do, they're doing it in Krishna consciousness. They love Krishna. They're fully attached to Krishna. Of course, they have a very special birth in Vrindavan. So they get that opportunity to go back to Godhead. They're the very dear devotees. Actually, Jiva Goswami says, before you can go back to Godhead, you should take birth somewhere where Lord Krishna is performing his pastimes. And that way you get you get further training before you actually enter into the spiritual world and take part in the pastimes of the Lord there. So the preliminary training is there to take part where the Lord is appearing in the material world and to take part in his pastimes. And then 32 we hear about Krishna stopping the sacrifice to Indra and how Krishna picks up the Govardhan hill. So we're coming to this festival in a few days. Lord Krishna at that time picking up Govardhan hill is only 7 years old. And it was the result of Indra, because of the pride of Indra. Indra was offended that he didn't get his yagya, so he sent the clouds to inundate Vrindavan. But it was all mercy for Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna got the opportunity to be with all of his devotees. That was very nice, because usually the gopis, they were not able to be with Krishna. They were not able to see Krishna very often. Of course, at night they'd go out to the forest, but they were not able to actually be with Krishna in the daytime. Krishna would go to the forest with the cowherd boys, the gopis would be working at home, doing their chores. But when the lifting of Govardhan Hill came, then everyone was together. And the gopis, they could see Krishna for 7 days and nights, constantly. And Krishna could be with them. And that was very satisfying to Lord Krishna. So we were discussing previously about whose offense was greater, Brahma or Indra. Indra had actually tried to annihilate, tried to kill all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So was his offense greater or Brahma's offense greater?
Maharaj, it's Brahma's offense was greater.
Why?
Because Brahma separated all Gopas and cows with Krishna, separated. But Indra
They united.
got together, all gopis, gops and
Right, yes.
all Prajapati.
Yes, that's correct, right. Brahma's offense was greater. Lord Krishna was really disgusted with Brahma. He just ignored Brahma when he came to offer prayers. Lord Krishna was not much interested in the prayers of Brahma because Brahma had separated him from the cows and the cowherd boys. And the cows and the cowherd boys are also dear to Lord Krishna. And Lord Brahma had separated him from them. So this was a great offense. Indra, he brought everybody together. Krishna took advantage of that to be with all the gopis and to be with all of his devotees. So it was, Brahma's offense was greater. And then we hear about text 33, we come to the rasa dance. And of course it's very important for us to understand the transcendental nature of the rasa dance. We hear also, Brahma also mentions about the killing of Shankachyuta, who came there and tried to kidnap some of the gopis, and how the Lord killed him. So the rasa dance is the affair of the internal potency of the Lord, and without understanding the external potency of the Lord, we shouldn't try to approach or try to understand the internal potency. Srila Prabhupada is very critical of people who just want to speak on Rasa Leela and the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis, even the picking up of the Govardhan Hill, and they don't want to speak about creation. They don't like to hear about how the Lord does the work of creation. But Prabhupada said that this Srishti Tattva, this creation, this is also the pastime of the Lord. We shouldn't just be concerned only with the pastimes with the gopis. We should be concerned also how the Lord creates this material world and how he arranges everything in this material world in order to deliver his devotees. So Brahma, then this text number 34, 35, we see the names of many different people that all mentioned by Lord Brahma, all demonic personalities. They're all demonic. Rukmi, great warriors, oh, so many demons. Would all fight vigorously. They'd fight with the Lord directly or with him under his names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. And the demons, thus being killed, would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or his personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. So that is the mercy of Lord Krishna, that those people, those demons who are all fighting, who are the enemies of Krishna, they were all given special mercy. that they could either enter into the Brahmajyoti or into the Vaikuntha planets. And we have some even rare cases, as we mentioned, like Putana. She could actually go into Goloka, into the Lord's pastime in Vrindavan, because she actually took the form of a gopi. She came there in the dress of the gopi. So Krishna was thinking she wants to be a gopi. So she entered into Goloka. Then demons, other demons, they'd go more, be more in Vaikuntha. I don't know about Aga and Baka, the brothers of Putana. They also got liberation, but I don't know if they actually got into Goloka or if they were just in Vaikuntha. But they also got liberation. So that is all Krishna's pastimes, that he's so merciful to everyone, that even the demons, they get so much mercy from Lord Krishna. So then text 36, we've come, Brahma's pretty much completed his description of Lord Krishna, and now he's going to talk about Vyasadeva, as mentioned in 36. Vyasadeva is also an important, very, very important personality and major contribution to delivering the conditioned souls in the Kali Yuga, because he compiled the Vedic literature. So it's mentioned here that the Lord, as in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, considered his compilation of the Vedic literature to be very difficult for the less intelligent persons with short life. And thus he will divide the tree of Vedic knowledge into different branches according to the circumstances of the particular age. So the Vedas, it said there was one original Veda, then it was divided into 4, and Vyas gave each of the Vedas to his different disciples. But still, Vyasadeva knew that the Vedas were really, they're only meant for Brahmanas. Only the Brahmanas can recite the Vedas. You want to hear the Vedic literature, you're supposed to hear it from a Brahmana. Where are the Brahmanas in the Kali Yuga? There's no proper qualified Brahmanas in the Kali Yuga, so therefore Vyasadeva wrote his supplements to the Vedas in the form of the Puranas. And the ultimate Purana, the greatest of all the Puranas, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in the purport, of course, at the time of this conversation, Lord Brahma speaking to Narada at this time, the Bhagavatam hadn't been written. Vyasadeva was still to write this, because this conversation which they're having took place a long time ago. Vyasadeva had appeared, but he hadn't done all this work yet. So Prabhupada explains, herein Brahma mentions the future compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam for the short-lived persons of the Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga people, we know, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya, right? Where we have a lot of problems, we have a lot of defects, we're lazy, misguided, unlucky, always disturbed, and we have a short life. We don't have very long to read all the Vedas. Therefore, Vyasadeva wrote things like Bhagavad Gita. Within the Mahabharata, he put the Bhagavad Gita. Mahabharata is for the simple people, that they just like to hear stories, they like to hear pastimes. So Mahabharata is there, and within the Mahabharata, the most important part of the Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita. Now Jiva Goswami mentions, actually, he said nobody ever got love of God by reading Mahabharata. But Bhagavad Gita is very special. Bhagavad Gita is a jewel within the Mahabharata. That's the real wealth of the Mahabharata. And for the graduates of Bhagavad Gita, then we have Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the actual fruit of all of the Vedas. The Vedas are the tree, but the tree becomes valuable when it has fruit. Just like the mango trees. If you have a mango tree, when you have some fruits on the tree, it's very valuable. If there's no fruit, nobody cares. So Srila Vyasadeva wrote this Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of people in the Kali Yuga, to deliver them, to help them to get out of this material world. Prabhupada mentions in the purport there, 36, but the Lord, as the compassionate Father of all living beings, imparts unto them the vast Vedic knowledge in short treatises like the Bhagavad Gita, and for the graduates, the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Puranas and the Mahabharata are also similarly made by Vyasadeva for the different types of men in the modes of material nature, but none of them are independent of the Vedic principles. So Srila Vyasadeva's very great contribution. And then we hear about Lord Buddha. Now, Lord Buddha also plays a role. He's another, generally, I would think of Lord Buddha more as a Shaktavesha avatar, but here it seems like they've included him with the Leela avatars. It mentions how the Lord will bewilder their minds by dressing himself attractively as Buddha, and will preach on sub-religious principles. What was that sub-religious principle which he preached on? Yes, right, ahimsa. That's right. It's a sub-religious principle. It's not the highest principle of religion. What is the highest principle of religion?
Love to Godhead.
Yes, Krishna Prem, right? That's it. That's it. Prema Punato Mohan. The goal of life is to develop love of God. So Lord Buddha, why did he preach on sub-religious principles? What was his reasoning?
Because people were doing meat-eating in the name of Vedas.
So
in order to make the people give up meat-eating, he denigrated the Vedas and he propagated atheism.
right, yes. Because the people were so atheistic, they were so materialistic, they couldn't understand God. If you read the Buddhists, they talk about anatma, no soul. Or if they talk about the soul, they talk about the soul as being something material, which can be annihilated, which can be destroyed. They don't talk of the soul on the spiritual platform. They don't see it as transcendental. So Lord Buddha, he is a special incarnation. It was mentioned here, Jiva Goswami said this incarnation is from a different Kali Yuga. There are many Buddhas. That's another important point. You know, when you talk to Buddhas, you have to understand there are many different Buddhas. It's not just one Buddha. There's many different Buddhas. At different times, different places. We have different Buddhas. And so, the Buddha who's an incarnation of God, who we consider one of the Dasa avatars, he may not be the same Buddha they're thinking of. There was one particular Buddha who was one of the Dasa avatars, incarnation of Vishnu. Not all. There are many different Buddhas. So generally, the Buddhists, they're atheistic. They don't believe in God. They don't consider Buddha God. If you ask them who is Buddha, they will say, Buddha is Buddha. He's not man and he's not God. He's Buddha. So, difficult to deal with this kind of people. And their goal is to become the Buddha. Everyone's a Buddha. We encourage them. Somebody wants to practice Buddhism and at the same time have an interest in Krishna consciousness. We tell them, become the servant of Buddha. Don't become Buddha. Generally, they all speak about becoming the Buddha. But become the servant of Buddha. Don't try to become Buddha yourself. Just simply develop the mood of service. That is the important point. Alright, text 38, we hear about Kalki. At the end of Kali Yuga, the Lord will come as Kalki. Who is the Yuga avatar for Kali Yuga? Is Kalki the Yuga avatar?
No.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes people think Kalki is the Yuga avatar. No. Kalki is the Leela avatar, mentioned here. So he's going to come and he will kill all the demons and then the Satya Yuga will begin again. And great sages will come down, great sages like Vyasadeva and so on, they'll come down, they have some function at the beginning of the next Satya Yuga. And even people like Ashwatthama will be there, some of the different Amaras, they will come back to begin the Satya Yuga. Alright, so that's pretty much the description of all the different avatars. And then we come to 39, we're going to hear about the creation, Lord Vishnu, all the different lords. We'll hear about creation, maintenance and destruction. And it's all going on under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Everything is just simply due to the power of the Supreme Lord, that different phases of the creation, it's all going under his direction. So how to understand the power of the Supreme Lord? This text number 40, Sridhar Swami comments on this text number 40. He said, Brahma is describing in brief about the power of the Supreme Lord. He said, no one can describe it fully because the Lord is so unlimited in his powers and his potencies and in his pastimes and his incarnations. Everything is so unlimited, no one can describe it fully. So Brahma is he's described it in brief. We have to be satisfied with that. We could never know everything in full. Are there any questions so far about the different incarnations of the Lord? The Lila avatars? And Lord Krishna's superhuman activities?
Yes, Maharaj, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu?
From text 34, 35, Maharaj, it mentioned about the Kualayapida is an elephant, but it said it's demoniac. Could you tell what is done, Maharaj? Maybe
34, 35?
Yes, Maharaj.
About
This demoniac personality,
All the different names.
Mention Kualayapida.
Oh, Kavalayapida, yes. That was at Mathura. When the Lord came to Mathura, there was the big elephant, Kavalayapida. Right? And it tried to stop Krishna and Balaram from entering the wrestling arena. Kamsa had arranged for that elephant to be there. And the keeper of the elephant was another servant of Kamsa. And he arranged for this elephant to attack Krishna, to attack Lord Krishna and Balaram when they entered into the arena at Mathura. So that was the Kuvalayapida elephant. Lord Krishna killed that elephant. And then he broke the tusk. He took the tusks with him when he entered into the wrestling arena. And he used those tusks. He used those tusks when he was dealing with Kamsa. And Kamsa's sons, they all came to attack. Lord Balaram killed them. So it's from that Lord Krishna entering Mathura at that time, Kuvalayapida.
Thank you, Maharaj. But another question, you mentioned about the before we are entering the spiritual world, so we should take birth in the Lord Dham as a preliminary pastime. Where did mention, Maharaj? Could you please give
this is from Jiva Goswami, mentioned by Jiva Goswami, and often quoted by other devotees. But Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbhas, he's mentioned like that the devotee doesn't immediately go back to Godhead, but we would enter into the place where Lord Krishna is appearing in some other place, some other universe, wherever the Lord is, wherever he's performing his pastime, that before we would actually enter into the spiritual world, the procedure is usually we would go there and take part in the Lord's pastimes there, in the material realm, as like a further training for us to enter into the spiritual world.
Thank you, Maharaj, from Sandarbha. Thank you.
Sometimes people say, oh no, I don't want another birth. But if you're going to be with Krishna, that is the spiritual world. You're going to be there with Krishna in Krishna's pastimes. So there's nothing to lament. That is success in itself. Just like when Krishna came to Rasa Leela, there's different gopis. Now some of the gopis have come from the spiritual world, and others are going to the spiritual world. And they're going to the spirit, but before they go to the spiritual world, they're given some training in the Vrindavan, in Boma Vrindavan, and taking part in the Rasa Leela on earth, before they go back into Goloka Vrindavan. Okay.
Maharaj.
Yes?
Maharaj, can I ask a question?
Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, I find that in Canto 1, we had a description of the incarnations. In Canto 2 also we are having description of the incarnations, but this is scheduled incarnations. Maharaj, why the repetition, and is this for a specific reason that Vasudeva is repeating?
Well, it's important for us to hear about the Lord and his different incarnations. This particular list is given from us by Lord Brahma. He's instructing to Narada. It was all systematically presented. Remember, previously we heard about the Vishwarup and the Virata Rup, the universal form of the Lord. And after hearing about the universal form of the Lord, then we want to hear about the Lord personally. So we hear first about the Lord's incarnations. And so Lord Brahma didn't just describe, he began with Lord Varaha. He's talking about Lord Varaha, the boar incarnation, and it's important for us to understand how the Lord can appear in so many different forms. You may say, oh, we heard it before. But it's not redundant to hear these things again. Rather, we take more pleasure. And it's always different. You know, Lord Brahma's describing it one way. Previously, it was Sukadeva Goswami was describing, or Sutta Goswami was describing a different way. In the first canto, Sutta Goswami was describing. But here, it's Lord Brahma describing. And so it's very important for us to see how all of these great devotees, how they all narrate the glories of the Lord and His different forms and different incarnations. And you could see how nicely Lord Brahma actually did it. He began with Lord Varaha, and then he came through the different form, and then he came to Lord Krishna, and he was talking about Lord Krishna, and then at the very end, then he came up to the topic of the lifting the Govardhan hill, and then Rasa Leela, the most confidential pastimes. So it's all to prepare us to understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna. We shouldn't be satisfied with just hearing one time. We want to hear these things again and again. The more we hear, the more we want to hear. No? Lord Chaitanya would say, go on reciting. Right? This is the business of devotees, is discussing the topics of Krishna again and again. There's always something new. I was telling her, you know, I hadn't read it for a long time, and I noticed this section about Prithu Maharaj, how he delivered his father. I thought it was very interesting, very nice description there. So you always find something when you go through these different sections. You may think, oh no, I've heard this, I've heard about, you know, but there's so much to hear about Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra, my goodness, the Ramayana, 24,000 slokas describing the pastimes of Lord Rama. Lord Nrsingadev, practically the whole 7th canto is about Lord Nrsingadev and his appearance and how he comes. And it's presented very briefly here. But Prabhupada, with his commentary, he makes it all very valuable for us, because Prabhupada makes use of these different incarnations to give us more important instructions. You see, you may have heard about the Lord, but the purports are different in each time. And it's the commentary of the Vaishnavas which is important. I remember it was Janani Vas Prabhu was talking about how they were reading the Bhagavad Gita with Prabhupada one day, and they read the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, and they said to Prabhupada, this is exactly the same as the Mayavadi commentary, the Mayavadi translation of the verse of the Bhagavad Gita. The Mayavadi Bhagavad Gita and our Bhagavad Gita, they have the same translation. Prabhupada said, yes, but the commentary is different. He said the important part is the Vaishnava commentary. Now the Mayavadi commentary is not going to be like the Vaishnava commentary. And so there are many different commentaries, and in each commentary, Prabhupada will give different points, different instructions to us. It's very important for us to hear and to go through these purports and to take out the important instructions which Prabhupada has given us there. So you shouldn't think it's something, redundant, we heard this. No. There's always something new there to be gained, which we haven't heard before. All right, so we're hearing about the creation, and then understanding Lord Vishnu, how he's unlimited. There's no limit to him. We can never know everything about him. So we come up to text 41, and Lord Brahma admits He said, neither I nor all the sages born before you know fully the omnipotent personality of Godhead. So Brahma says, not I don't know, and the sages don't know. He said, so what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Sesha, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with his 1,000 faces. So Anantashesha, the first expansion of the Lord, he is narrating the glories of the Lord since the beginning of time. And with each of his mouths, he's describing the glories of the Lord. But there's no repetition, there's no redundancy. He's still describing, he's still continuing. So that is the nature of the Supreme Lord. We have to understand his unlimited and transcendental nature. Text. Well, can we ever understand him then? The question may be raised: is it impossible for us to understand him? So this point is brought up in text 42. Right? But anyone who is favored, we need to be favored by the Supreme Lord. Then we can understand him. So how can we get the favor of the Lord?
His causeless mercy.
Just
by doing devotion.
And
one thing I would like to share is Nalakuvera Manigriva. They got the causeless mercy of the Lord. So that is why we pray Tata Prema Bhakti. You also give us the same Prema Bhakti that you gave to Nalakuvera Manigriva, and they said the beautiful prayers also.
Well, I would disagree with what you said just now. Was it just causeless mercy of the Lord? Why did they get the mercy of the Lord? Why did Manigriva and Nalakuvera get the mercy of the Lord?
Because of Narada Muni, they got the mercy of
Yes, right. Yes, huh?
Devotee of mercy. I mean, mercy from a pure devotee.
Right. By the mercy of the devotee, they got the mercy of the Lord. Because the Lord Krishna is obliged to serve his pure devotees. And Narada Muni had told them, you take birth here, you stay, the Lord will come and deliver you. And so, Lord Krishna knew that Narada Muni had put them into those trees and told them to wait there. Lord Krishna knew he had to deliver them, because it was the desire of his pure devotee, Narada Muni. All right, so how do we get the favor of the Lord? What are we going to do?
By serving Srila Prabhupada and his mission.
Okay, yeah.
By following the instruction of pure devotee.
Yes, follow the instructions of the devotee, pure devotees.
Surrender unto Lord Krishna.
Yes, mentioned here in the verse, Lord Brahma says like that, surrender unto the service of the Lord. Right? How do we know that we've actually surrendered? What will be the signs that we're actually progressing to the Lord? How can we tell that we're making progress?
We get detached to the material.
By the mercy of spiritual.
Yes, we become detached from the material affairs. We're less concerned with the material world, right? Detachment.
We get attached to this in the Lord's service.
Yes.
Get attached to the Lord's service.
Detachment from the material means attachment to the spiritual, right? We cannot be just nowhere. We have to be attached to Krishna. If there's actually detachment from the body, there has to be attachment to Krishna. Attachment to Krishna and Krishna's service. That's the only way we can actually be detached, that there will be positive engagement in the service of Krishna. Right. So that is the sign that we're actually progressing. And Lord Brahma mentions, he said, those who are attached to this body, they're going to be eaten by dogs and jackals. So that's their destination. If you're just simply attached to the body, then you're stupid. You'll just be eaten by the dogs and jackals. So we want to develop our consciousness of Krishna. We want to be engaged in Krishna's service. We need to also be cultivating knowledge of Krishna. We need to be hearing about Krishna and Krishna's activities. It's described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita how the gopis of Vrindavan are always doing kirtan. They never stop doing kirtan. Nam Sankirtan. It goes on continually. They're doing all their chores. They take care of their children, they clean their homes, they milk the cows, they collect the cow dung, but all the time they're doing Nam Sankirtan. They're chanting the glories of the Lord, and they're meditating on the Lord and all of his pastimes. And they sing beautiful songs about his activities. So we want to develop that kind of mood, always thinking about Krishna and chanting his glories. Keep the holy name on our tongue. And we have so many beautiful songs. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Narottam Das, they wrote so many beautiful songs for us to sing. Okay, so we're hearing about how to become, how to understand Krishna as the cause of everything, and there's nothing beyond him. And then in text number 43 to 45, we get the names of many great devotees. And these are all devotees who are fully attached to Krishna, who are great devotees of Krishna. So Brahma's telling Narada, is it, look at all of these people, so many great names are there. He talks about the all-powerful Shiva, the great king of the atheistic family, Prahlad Maharaj, Swayambhuva Manu, his wife Shatarupa, his sons and daughters like Priyavrata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Devahuti, Prashuti, then Prachinibari, Ribu, Anga, the father of Vena, Maharaj, Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Muchukunda, Janaka, Gadi, Raghu, Ambarish, Sagar, Gaya, Nahusha, on and on. So many names are there. Finishes with Sukadeva Goswami, Arjuna, Arishtasena, Vidura, Shrutadev. So many names. Brahma's telling, look, all of these people, they're all great devotees. They all became devotees of Krishna. You should also, he wants Narada also to understand how important, how powerful the holy name of the Lord, the potencies of the Lord, that so many great souls are all devoted to Krishna. Just like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna responded a little bit, the way he mentioned a few names, right? Who did Arjuna say? When Lord Krishna spoke Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, then Arjuna said, not only do I accept you as the Supreme Lord, but also, who? Nasita, Devala, Narada, Vyasa, they all accept you as the Supreme Lord. So here you can see Brahma's giving a long list, so many names, great devotees, so many wonderful personalities. They're all devoted to Lord Krishna. So in this way, Lord Brahma wants to convince Narada Muni of the power of devotional service to the Lord and the importance of surrender. Prabhupada writes in the purport there of 45, in the Upanishads, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be known simply by working hard and taxing the good brain, nor can he be known simply by mental speculation and jugglery of words. The Lord is knowable only by one who is a surrendered soul. Herein, Brahmaji, the greatest of all material living beings, acknowledges this truth. Therefore, the fruitless spoiling of energy by pursuing the path of experimental knowledge must be given up. One should gain knowledge by surrendering unto the Lord and by acknowledging the authority of the persons mentioned herein. The Lord is unlimited, and by the grace of the Yoga Maya helps the surrendered soul to know him proportionately with the advance of one's surrender. So, as Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapajante tam stataiva bhajam. As you surrender, I reward you accordingly. So we see also here, with our surrender, we come to know Krishna more. So this is important. And surrender means doing whatever Krishna wants. We have to gain knowledge. We should gain knowledge, and we should surrender more and more. We should never think, now I'm surrendered. No. We have to go on, surrender more and more. We'll get more and more tests. So 46 continues, very interesting, and 46 talks about even groups leading sinful lives, even people leading sinful lives, people from the mountains and Siberians, even birds and beasts, they can also know about the science of Krishna consciousness, and they can also get liberated. We know Garuda's a great devotee, Gajendra was a great devotee, Jambavan was a great devotee. There's so many devotees in different bodies. They were all great souls. They surrendered to Krishna, and they took to the path of devotional service. A little bit from Prabhupada's purport here in 46. The personality of Godhead may not be present before one's eyes, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualifications for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. Right? There's no need of material qualifications. Can you think of some people, no material qualification, maybe even illiterate, but very spiritually advanced? Tukaram was a great poet. He wrote beautiful songs. He must... Huh? Gorkishore Das Babaji, yes. Gorkishore Das Babaji was illiterate. Who? Kolaveka Sridhar was a Brahmana. I'm not sure about his how materially qualified he was. He was poor economically, but he was a Brahmana. So he may have been educated.
A Brahmana in South India who cannot read Bhagavad Gita, Lord Chaitanya met him.
Oh yes, that's an interesting one. The Brahmana wasn't educated. He was trying to read the Bhagavad Gita. He couldn't read it. Yeah, thank you. Good. Okay, very good. And just a little bit more in the purport there of 46. In other words, the loving representative of the Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. Oh, this is the point. Yeah, the pure devotee can be more kind in Krishna, and it's more easier to approach him than to approach Krishna. A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. And if one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can also understand the science of God and can also benefit like the transcendental pure devotees of the Lord, and thus get liberation back to Godhead. So, interesting point Prabhupada makes in the purport, that somebody may be very sinful, they cannot go to the Lord, they're very sinful, but they get the mercy of a devotee. You think of some examples? Nagrari the hunter, yes, I think that's one that comes to mind, certainly. He was sinful and somehow he got the mercy of... He didn't actually go to Narada Muni. Narada Muni happened to meet him and he got the mercy of Narada.
Jagai Madai, they got mercy of Nityananda.
Yes, very good one, yes. They got the Lord Nityananda went to them also. Any sinful people, they went to the pure devotee to get mercy?
Lakwera Manigriva.
Who?
Nalakwera and Manigriva.
But again, they didn't go to the Lord, Narada Muni. Narada Muni came to them. He happened to meet them. Anyway, they meet. Somehow or other they meet by the arrangement of the Lord, and then they get the opportunity, somehow they got the blessing of the pure devotee, the curse. Okay, we'll go ahead. Okay, so Narada Muni is going to ask, Lord Brahma is going to ask Narada Muni that he wants him to take up this process. But first of all, he's convincing him that everything is achieved by devotional service. If you look at text number 48, it's very interesting. It mentions here in text 48 that you don't have to worry about any other process. You don't have to take up meditation, or you don't have to be doing jnana yoga or anything. You just simply have to do bhakti yoga. Just concentrate on the path of devotion, and all the results will be there in bhakti yoga. If you just do bhakti yoga. And Lord Brahma gives an example. He said, just like Indra, he doesn't have to do the trouble of digging a well. Why would Indra not have to dig a well?
Because Maharaj, he is controlling the dew of rain.
Yes, he doesn't have to dig a well. Not some poor farmer, he may have to dig a well, but Indra doesn't have to dig a well. He's in control of all the clouds and he can pour water down anywhere. So the same way, one who does bhakti yoga, he doesn't have to do all these other things. He doesn't have to do jnana yoga, he doesn't have to do meditation, he doesn't have to do charity or sacrifice. He just has to do his bhakti yoga, and everything is included. Just like one who has $1 million, he has also $1,000, he has $500,000, it's all included within 1 million. So one who does bhakti yoga, he doesn't have to do any other process. He doesn't have to worry. Everything is there. So Lord Brahma makes that point to Narada Muni, that if you just simply do bhakti yoga, you don't have to do anything else. And you just chant the holy name. You get everything by chanting the holy name. So this is confirmed by Lord Brahma. He's making this point very clearly. And coming up to text number 50, he says, I have explained to you about the Creator And there's no other cause. He's the there's only this one creator. He's the cause of all the manifested worlds. There's nobody else. It all comes from him. Now somebody may say, well, the material world undergoes a lot of change. There's always change in the material world. We see everything decaying and then renovating and so on. So does the Lord, does he also change? What do you say? The material world is changing. Is the Lord also going to change?
No. He's transcendental.
Yes, he has a transcendental body. He's not going to change. Even though everything else changes, the whole material world is subject to change. But the Lord, he doesn't have to change. He's going to remain as he is. He already has an antarup. He has so many forms. He appears in so many different ways. It's already there within him. Why should he change? It's already there. And then Prabhupada brings up the point at the end of the purport of text 50, talks about why did Krishna create this miserable material world? Why does he make us suffer? And what's the answer? We should blame Krishna for creating this material world.
By his wrong identification.
Krishna's wrong identification?
No. A living entity's wrong identification. He is thinking that he is a body, but actually he is not a body, he is a soul. Part and parcel of Krishna.
So that's why Krishna created the material world?
No, Krishna created this material world for his own enjoyment.
Krishna created the material world for his own enjoyment?
Yes.
Really?
This
Take the fallen souls back to Godhead.
Yes.
Because we have a desire to control, and so to give us the chance, okay, you want to control, you can do it here in this material creation. And so we can see the futility that we actually do not have the capacity to control.
So Krishna doesn't interfere with the free will of the living entities. So when living entities rebelled in the spiritual world, that's why Krishna created the material world for those facilitation of those material desires.
And what's the example which Prabhupada gives? Why?
The king greeting a prison house.
Yes, right. Just like the prison house. The king, the government spend a lot of money on a prison. Is it necessary?
Yes, because the tendency of the people.
Yeah, because there are people who are troublemakers. They just give trouble to others and disturb the law and order of the society. So the prison house is necessary. Why do they put them in the prison? Just to let them rot there and die there?
For their reformation.
Right, for their reformation. So this is the idea, that they should actually be reformed by the material, by going to prison. Instead of prison, they call it a correction center. They're trying to do away with the name prison and change the name to a correction center, because the idea is to correct people. So that this is the purpose of the material world. Actually, people should be corrected. They should give up their rebellious nature and become devotees and become servants. Okay, then going on, text 50, Lord Brahma says to Narada, he said, please expand this science yourself. So Lord Brahma is giving the instruction to his son. He said, I want you to expand this science. I want you to distribute it to everyone. And Prabhupada talks in the purport about Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Vyasadeva, and how Srila Originally, the Srimad Bhagavatam was 4 verses, and it was expanded. It was given to Lord Brahma as 4 verses by the Lord, and then Lord Brahma gave it to Narad, and Narad gave it to Vyas, and Vyas gave it to us in the form of 18,000 slokas. So it's expanded. You see, so like this, this is the mission of the Lord, to distribute this knowledge. And Brahma asked Narada, you should also expand this science yourself. The Bhagavad Purana is also incarnation of the Lord. This is the literary incarnation. So then 52, Brahma is saying, describe this science with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite fit for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. So this is the point. We want to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. That will be very beneficial for people in the Kali Yuga. Right? Krishna swadamo pagate dharma jnana dibisaha kalonishtam puranarto drinodritaha. This Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali will get light from this Purana. So Prabhupada writes in the purport there, text number 52, he says, Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention, or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Prabhupada writes, there's one purport, Prabhupada said, if you study the Srimad Bhagavatam, one day you will see Krishna in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Brahma continues in that vein, text 53, but reading regularly, hearing regularly, then one is sure to get free of the illusory energy of the Lord. Is sure to get out of this energy of illusion. We just simply have to appreciate and hear in accordance with the teachings of the Lord. Okay, so we'll stop. Are there any questions? Anybody has any more questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
In text number 40, text number 41, I just need a reconciliation. In the translation, he said that he's describing the qualities of the Lord with 10,000 faces. And in the end of the purport, Prabhupada said, has been describing them continuously with his 1,000 faces. Statistics differ in the two, so I need a reconciliation for preaching purpose.
Well, it says in the translation, it says 1,000 faces.
Yes, 1,000.
So 1,000 faces is 1,000.
That's true, Maharaj.
And the purport also says 1,000.
Thank you, Maharaj. I think my reading was faulty.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Any other points?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the wonderful lecture. Maharaj, my question is that many times Srila Prabhupada in purports describe that this is mentioned in Srila Jiva Goswami Sandarbha and some other Vaishnavacharya's commentary. So should we also refer them while reading Srila Prabhupada purports? So is it okay to read them or should we first complete Srila Prabhupada purport? So I just want to know your thought on that. First we deeply going through Srila Prabhupada purports, and after when we are gone through multiple times of Srila Prabhupada purports, then we can refer Vaishnava Acharya's commentaries.
Yes, there's no harm to read also the commentaries of the Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami and so on, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nowadays these are available for devotees. Of course, we do give the greatest emphasis on Srila Prabhupada's commentaries. We want to be chaste and faithful to Srila Prabhupada's commentary, but at the same time, if there's something additional information there in the commentaries of Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or these other acharyas, then there's no harm to also read it. Yeah. Prabhupada liked us to read his books first, but books written by his disciples are also like written by him. Somebody is a disciple in good standing, follower of Srila Prabhupada, then I think we can trust their commentary, their translations. Like several devotees have translated the Sandarbha. The Sandarbhas are there, Bhanu Swami is translated, and maybe other people also done. And so we can look through them and pick out something which is of interest and of relevance, and certainly it's valuable because it's coming from the parampara. It's coming in the parampara. It's not out of the parampara, so there's no harm for us to hear it.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
You'll hear, for example, Barijan Prabhu and Narayani Mataji, who are always lecturing on Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhakti Vedanta. They're often quoting these books. So when we're making a serious study, as you are just now, studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Vaibhava, it's useful to look at these commentaries. Okay?
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Any other points? Okay. Oh, yes? Go ahead.
I just asked, the pole star you said does not get annihilated when there is a total devastation or just partial devastation?
Either way, it's a Vaikuntha planet. It's never destroyed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll stop here and I'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhus. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.